Ladies and gentlemen, let me hit you with something real right now. Sometimes the man who loves you the most will act like he doesn't. I know that sounds backwards, even foolish. You're sitting there thinking, if he loves me, why would he ignore me? But hold on, don't walk away just yet, because what looks like distance on the surface is often fear, confusion, or a man fighting battles inside himself he doesn't know how to explain. And if you don't understand this part of a man's heart, you'll think the silence means he's done, when sometimes that silence means he cares more than he knows how to show. Stick with me, because today I'm breaking down what's really going on in his head when the man who loves you starts pulling away, when a man falls in love and the feelings hit him harder than he expected. The first thing many of them do is pull back. They get quiet. They slow down communication. They stop being consistent. And to you, it feels confusing, hurtful. Even you start asking yourself, did I do something wrong? Did he lose interest? But often, the truth is this: he didn't stop caring. He's scared. He's scared of how deep it feels, how serious it's getting, and what it might mean to finally be vulnerable with someone. Men aren't always taught how to handle love. They're taught how to chase, how to impress, how to win. But when love starts becoming real, not just attraction, not just chemistry, but something that could actually change his life, many of them freeze up. It's not that they don't want it, it's that they're afraid of what it requires from them. Because love isn't just about what you feel, it's about what you're willing to give. And that part, the giving, requires him to open up, to drop his guard, to show you who he is beyond the surface. And for a lot of men, that's terrifying. So instead of leaning in, he pulls back. He ignores your message, not because he wants to hurt you, but because answering it would mean stepping into a conversation that requires emotional honesty. And he's not sure he's ready for that. He skips the call, not because he's careless, but because he's afraid of how much hearing your voice might remind him that he's falling, and falling deep. He may act distant, cold, or like he's losing interest, but inside there's a storm going on, a mix of wanting to be close and wanting to protect himself. You might think, if he really loves me, wouldn't he want to be near me? And yes, deep down, he does. But love doesn't show up the same in every person. For some men, love brings peace. For others, love brings fear. Not fear of you, but fear of losing you. Fear of not being enough. Fear of not knowing what to do with something so real. So the silence you're getting, sometimes that's the sound of a man trying to process feelings that scare him because he doesn't want to mess this up. It doesn't mean you have to accept it forever. It doesn't mean you should wait around endlessly for someone to decide how to love you. But it does mean that sometimes the love is real, even if the behavior is wrong. That doesn't excuse it, but it helps explain it. Because love, when it hits the heart of a man who's never been taught how to deal with it, can feel like pressure. He thinks love is supposed to feel easy, smooth, predictable. And when it gets serious, and when you show him something deep, calm, and nurturing, it can overwhelm him. He might have thought he was ready. He might have said all the right things at first. But then the reality of what love requires hit him. He realized he couldn't just be charming. He had to be consistent. He couldn't just say the right things. He had to show up. And when he realized that, the fear kicked in. So he did what many men do when emotions get too real, too fast. He retreated. He created distance, hoping the space would give him time to think. But what he doesn't realize is that the silence also makes you question everything. So yes, sometimes when a man loves you, he ignores you. Not because he doesn't care, but because he cares more than he knows how to handle. He's scared of how much you matter. He's scared that if he gives in fully, you'll see the broken parts he's been hiding from everyone else. But here's the truth. Love can't grow in silence. It can't survive on fear. So while his love might be real, if he doesn't learn to show it, speak it, and protect it, he's going to lose it. And when he does, that's when the real regret shows up. Not because he didn't feel it, but because he let fear speak louder than love. When a man truly loves you, and he knows deep down that you're different, that you're not just another date, not just another moment, but something serious and lasting, he sometimes pulls away, not because he wants to lose you, but because he doesn't want to mess it up. That might sound backward. You might think, he doesn't want to lose me. Why would he ignore me? But you have to understand how fear of failure works in a man's heart, especially when it comes to love. A lot of men walk through life trying to look like they have it all together. They've got the job, the charm, the confidence. But underneath that, many are walking around with quiet pressure, pressure to perform, pressure to be strong, pressure not to fail. So when a man meets a woman he truly cares about, who makes him feel things that matter, his mind starts spinning. And one of the loudest thoughts in his head is, what if I mess this up? Not because he wants to, but because he doesn't fully trust himself to do it right. He might be carrying past mistakes. Maybe he hurt someone before. Maybe he was the one who was hurt. Maybe he grew up in a house where love came with chaos, with yelling, with distance. So now, when something calm and stable shows up, it feels foreign, scary even. He looks at you and sees everything he ever wanted, and instead of stepping into it, he steps back. Not because you're too much, but because what you represent requires more from him than he's ever given anyone. And that pressure makes him pause. So he ignores your texts, not because he doesn't want to talk, but because he's unsure what to say that won't lead to more responsibility. He avoids the phone call, not because he's tired of you, but because he's overthinking every word he might say. He doesn't show up the way he used to, not because he stopped caring, but because the stakes have gotten real, and he doesn't trust himself not to ruin something good. That fear can make him do the exact opposite of what love is supposed to do. Instead of pulling you closer, he creates distance, hoping that somehow if he steps back, he'll figure it all out first. What he doesn't realize is that in the process of trying not to mess it up, he is messing it up. Because while he's out here wrestling with fear, you're sitting in silence, confused, hurt, trying to understand how someone who once made you feel so seen now makes you feel invisible. You don't see the fear. You don't hear the overthinking. All you feel is the shift, the gap, and that's what makes it so painful. You were open, ready, consistent, and now he's distant, cold, and unsure. And it's not because he doesn't love you. It's because he does. But love alone isn't enough. And that's the part many men don't learn until it's too late. You can love someone deeply and still lose them if you don't show up with presence, with communication, with emotional honesty. Hiding behind fear doesn't protect love. It slowly kills it. So when a man ignores you because he doesn't want to mess it up, he thinks he's buying time. What he's really doing is building doubt in your heart. Doubt about his effort. Doubt about his consistency. Doubt about where you stand. Eventually, he'll look up and realize you're not there anymore. Not because you didn't care, but because you got tired of loving someone who was afraid to meet you at the same level. And when that moment comes, he'll regret not pushing past his fear. He'll regret not choosing vulnerability over silence. He'll realize that he was so scared of losing you that he lost you anyway, all because he tried to protect love by avoiding the responsibility that comes with it. So yes, sometimes when a man loves you, he'll ignore you, not out of disrespect, not because he's playing games, but because he's afraid of getting it wrong. And in trying to avoid failure, he forgets that not showing up at all is the biggest failure of all. Sometimes a man who loves you deeply will ignore you, not because he doesn't care, but because he's going through something he doesn't know how to talk about. See, men aren't always taught how to express what's really going on inside. They're raised to be strong, silent, and self-contained. From a young age, many men are told, don't cry, don't be soft, handle it yourself. So when life starts throwing punches, when pressure builds, when finances get tight, when fear creeps in, when he feels like he's failing at something, instead of opening up, he shuts down. And sometimes the first person he pulls away from is the one he loves the most. That doesn't make it right, but it does make it real. Because a man can love you with everything in him and still go quiet when he feels overwhelmed. And it's not because he's trying to hurt you. It's not because he's trying to play with your mind. It's because in those moments, he doesn't have the words to explain what he's carrying. He doesn't feel safe enough to be seen in a weak moment. And the one thing he doesn't want to do is bleed on someone he's trying to protect. Now from your side, it feels personal. You're showing up. You're asking if he's okay, and he's giving you one-word answers or ignoring your messages completely. You feel confused, unappreciated, and rejected. And it's hard because you think, if he loves me, why won't he just talk to me? But to him, silence feels like safety. When he's hurting or uncertain, silence becomes the easiest shield to grab. It's how he avoids saying something he might regret. It's how he avoids showing a version of himself that feels broken or lost. In his mind, silence is not disrespect, it's defense. This is especially true when a man is used to being the provider, the protector, the one who's supposed to have it all together. If something in his world is falling apart, maybe it's work, family, mental health, or even doubts about himself, the shame of not feeling enough can eat him alive. And instead of turning to love for comfort, he turns inward. He isolates, not because your love isn't enough, but because he doesn't feel like he's enough right now. And until he figures out how to fix it, he'll stay quiet. You may try to push through. You may offer support, ask questions, remind him you're there. But if he's stuck in that mindset, nothing you say will open him up until he is ready. That's the hard part. You can't love him out of his silence. He has to love himself enough to be vulnerable. He has to see that shutting down doesn't protect the relationship. It damages it. Because while he's trying to protect you from his chaos, you're feeling the sting of distance. And love can't grow in distance. Eventually, if he doesn't learn to communicate, to let you in, even just a little, he'll look around and realize you've gone quiet too. Not out of punishment, but out of exhaustion. Because silence might feel safe to him, but to you, it feels like abandonment. And that's where so many relationships die. Not because love wasn't there, but because the connection couldn't survive the silence that came with stress. So yes, sometimes when a man loves you, he will ignore you. Not because you did something wrong, not because he wants to let you go, but because he's struggling. And the only way he knows how to deal with it is to carry it alone. He might think he's doing you a favor by not bringing his problems to your doorstep. But the real favor would be trusting you enough to share the weight, to let you in, to believe that love isn't about always being strong, it's about being real. Because a healthy love doesn't require perfection, it requires presence. And one day, if he's lucky, he'll learn that pushing you away during the hard times didn't protect you. It just showed you that he couldn't meet you emotionally when it mattered most. And by the time he's ready to talk, you may have already found peace in your own silence. Sometimes when a man loves you, he'll ignore you not because he doesn't want you, but because he's testing if you want him. Now let's get one thing clear. This doesn't make it right, but it does make it real. See, a lot of men struggle with insecurity more than they'll ever admit. Even the confident ones, especially the confident ones, he might act like he's got it all together, like he doesn't care, like he can go on without you. But sometimes, behind that silence, he's watching to see if you'll chase him, to see if you'll prove you still care. And in his mind, if you do, that's his confirmation that the love is real. It sounds immature, and it is, but it's rooted in fear. Fear of not being enough, fear of being abandoned, fear of being vulnerable first. For some men, ignoring you isn't about power, it's about protection. They've been in situations before where they gave too much too soon and got hurt. So now they pull back just to see what you'll do. If she really cares, she'll call again. If I don't text, will she check on me? If I disappear for a day, will she even notice? These thoughts swirl around in his head, and instead of being honest, he uses distance to get his answers. It's like emotional hide and seek. He hides and he waits to see if you'll come looking. And if you do, he feels validated. If you don't, he might panic, but he'll pretend he doesn't care. That's how ego works. It convinces you to create distance, then punishes you when the other person actually lets you go. The saddest part is, it's not because he wants to lose you. It's because he wants proof that you won't walk away. This kind of behavior shows up a lot in the early stages of a relationship or when things are getting serious. Right when the connection is deepening, instead of leaning into it, he backs off. He wants to see if the feeling is mutual, if you'll fight for him. But what he doesn't realize is that love isn't proven through tests. It's proven through communication, consistency, and presence. By trying to manipulate connection through silence, he's actually weakening it. And for you, this is confusing. You feel the shift. He was calling every day, texting good morning, making plans. Now suddenly he's distant, short, unavailable. You start questioning yourself. Did I say something wrong? Did I come on too strong? You overthink. You analyze the last few conversations. You go back through texts trying to find the turning point. But what you don't know is that in many cases, nothing went wrong. He just wants to know how far you'll go to keep him. That's a dangerous mindset, because real love isn't supposed to feel like a game. You're not supposed to earn someone who already has your heart. You're not supposed to prove your worth by chasing someone who's emotionally hiding. But a man who's insecure or emotionally immature might not understand that yet. So he ignores you, hoping your pursuit will soothe his fear. And when you don't chase, when you take the silence as an answer and start matching his energy, that's when he gets uncomfortable. That's when the plan backfires. Now he's the one wondering what happened. Did she stop caring? Was she just pretending? He doesn't realize that your silence wasn't strategy. It was self-respect. You didn't play the game. You walked away from the board. And that right there shows him more than any test could. He may eventually circle back, confused by your calm. Maybe he reaches out. Maybe he tries to pick things up like nothing happened. But deep down, he knows he risked something good by pulling away. He knows he let fear control his actions. And now he has to ask himself a different question. Why did I need to be chased to believe I was loved? So yes, sometimes a man who loves you will ignore you, not out of malice, but out of insecurity. He wants to be pursued, to feel safe, to feel chosen. But the real work isn't in testing love. It's in showing up for it. The ones who truly get it know that the strongest relationships are built on truth, not tactics. And the man who learns that too late usually learns it in your absence, not your presence. There are times when a man who loves you will ignore you, not because he's trying to hurt you, but because he's trying to protect you from the storm going on in his own life. This might be hard to understand, especially when you're showing up with love, care, and consistency. But when a man feels like his world is unstable, whether it's stress, financial problems, family issues, or emotional struggles, he might pull away to shield you from the chaos he's dealing with. And in his mind, that distance is a form of love, not rejection. He may not have the words to say what he's going through. He might not even fully understand it himself. All he knows is that he doesn't feel strong, and when he doesn't feel strong, he doesn't feel worthy of showing up for you. You've probably heard the saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. And a man who's emotionally or mentally running on empty knows he has very little to give. Rather than lean on you, which would actually bring you closer, he withdraws. Because somewhere inside, he believes that stepping back is protecting you from being dragged into his mess. Men are often raised to believe they have to carry everything on their own, be the provider, be the problem solver, be the tough one. So when life starts breaking them down, many don't know how to ask for help. They don't want to admit they're overwhelmed. They don't want to show weakness. And the last thing they want is for the woman they love to see them struggling. So what do? They go quiet. They distance themselves. They ignore your calls. Not because you don't matter, but because they don't feel like they can show up for you the way they think they should. From your side, it feels cold. It feels like abandonment. You're thinking, why won't he let me in? Why won't he trust me with what's going on? You may feel like he doesn't value the relationship. But the truth is, in his mind, he's doing you a favor. He believes he's sparing you. He believes you deserve better than a man who's falling apart. So instead of opening up, he shuts down. Instead of leaning in, he disappears. Now, this doesn't mean his way is right. It doesn't mean you have to accept emotional distance as love. But understanding the root of it can help you see it's not always about you. It's about what he hasn't healed in himself. Because real intimacy, real, deep connection, isn't just about sharing joy. It's about being able to show up with your pain, your fear, your brokenness. And if he hasn't learned how to be emotionally vulnerable, he's going to keep choosing isolation over connection every time things get hard. Some men would rather deal with their problems alone and come back to you fixed than risk you seeing them broken. They think if they can just get through it on their own, they'll return as a better man. But what they don't realize is that in shutting you out, they're also closing the door on the exact love that could help them heal. You're not looking for perfection. You're looking for presence. You're not asking for him to have all the answers. You just want to be let in. Eventually, if he keeps ignoring you every time things get difficult, it will take a toll. You'll start to feel like love only exists when things are easy. You'll begin to doubt the connection, not because it wasn't real, but because it wasn't strong enough to survive vulnerability. And by the time he figures out that protecting you by pushing you away actually caused more damage, you may have already moved on. Not out of anger, but out of self-respect. So yes, sometimes when a man loves you, he will ignore you, not because he wants distance, but because he believes distance keeps you safe from his pain. But real love doesn't need to be hidden. Real love says, I'm struggling, but I want you here with me anyway. And the man who learns that will stop pushing away the one person who was never afraid to stay through the storm. There are moments when a man will ignore the woman he loves, not because he doesn't care, but because deep down, he knows he's not ready for what she brings to the table. And this right here is something many women struggle to understand, because from your side, the love is real, the connection is strong, and everything feels like it's finally aligned. You're showing up fully, emotionally available, ready to build something solid. But on his end, he's feeling the weight of your presence. And it's not pressure you're giving, it's pressure he's putting on himself. See a woman who knows her worth, who loves without games, who's mature and grounded. She doesn't just bring affection, she brings standards. She brings expectations. She brings stability. And that type of woman, while deeply wanted, can also feel like a mirror to a man who hasn't done his inner work yet. She reflects everything he knows he's not fully living up to. So what does he do? He pulls back. He goes quiet, not because he doesn't want her, but because he doesn't feel ready for the kind of love she deserves. Sometimes being loved by a good woman will make an unready man uncomfortable. It shines a light on all the parts of himself he's been avoiding. His emotional immaturity, his inconsistent habits, his lack of direction, or even his fear of commitment. You may have triggered something he didn't even realize he was avoiding until you walked in and gave him the kind of love that couldn't be taken lightly. Now he's looking at you and thinking, she's the real thing. I can't play with this. I can't half love this. I have to step up or step back. And many times they choose to step back. It's easier for him to ignore you than to face the uncomfortable truth that he's not ready. Not ready to show up emotionally, not ready to be vulnerable, not ready to be consistent in his actions. And rather than saying that out loud, he disappears. He creates distance. He pretends he's busy because admitting he's not ready would mean taking accountability. And not every man is there yet. Some are still learning that love isn't about showing up when it's convenient. It's about showing up when it counts. This is why some men chase women who don't challenge them. They keep choosing relationships that don't demand growth, that don't require honesty, because it's safe. But when a woman walks in with confidence, love, loyalty, and peace, and expects that energy in return, that scares a man who's still living in survival mode. That scares a man who only knows how to offer half of himself. And from your side, it feels like rejection. You gave him your best. You were present, patient, kind, and real. And now he's pulling away, ignoring your calls, acting like nothing mattered. But the truth is, he knows exactly what you brought into his life. That's the part that bothers him. You weren't just another woman. You were the one who made him think, the one who made him reflect, the one who made him realize how far he still had to go. So yes, sometimes when a man loves you, he'll ignore you. Not because the love wasn't real, but because your presence demanded more from him than he was ready to give. You opened a door to a version of love he hadn't seen before, a love that required growth, a love that needed him to be whole, not perfect, but honest, accountable, emotionally mature. And he didn't know how to rise to that. In time, some men grow up and realize what they lost. They recognize that your expectations weren't too high, they were just right. And they see how their fear cost them something beautiful. But by then, you may have already moved on, not because you stopped loving him, but because you refused to shrink yourself to make him comfortable. You chose to honor the love you were giving by giving it to someone who's actually ready. Because being ready isn't about age. It's about mindset and real love, deep love. The kind that builds legacies and safe homes, that requires two people who are emotionally prepared. And if he's not ready, silence will be his only answer. Not because he wants to lose you, but because he knows he can't keep you without becoming more than he is. And that journey, that's one he has to take on his own.